Hi, and welcome to It's the Heart's Work People, Passion, and Purpose podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Terry Ross. This podcast is about people finding their passion and walking into their purpose. Our mission is to help people live the extraordinary life that they dream of. And today we have our guest back with us. We're so excited that Dr. B, I can just start out saying Dr. B this time because she's already made an introduction and she does not need an introduction. So happy that she's back with us today. Today, one way that we know that you can live the extraordinary life that you dream of is by overcoming fear. And so today we're going to talk about fear and how does fear paralyze us from our purpose. And I'm so glad that we have the renowned therapist, author, artist, Dr. B with us to help us talk through this thing about fear. Dr. B, just introduce yourself again to the people who may not know who you are.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. T, for having me back on today. It's my honor to be back with you. And so I am Dr. B, Dr. Brenda Caldwell, the ambassador of hope, all things hope. And certainly I'm a clinical therapist, as well as you said, a speaker, motivator, inspirator, all those things. But I have on my therapy hat for us today to talk about fear as we get into this subject, because as you said, Dr. Ross, fear certainly can impede our progress on our journey toward fulfilling our purpose and our destiny. So we want to make sure that we can motivate and inspire some people, as well as give some insight in terms of how to deal with this subject concerning fear and what to do about it if you are currently struggling with some fear in your life.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for putting your main hat on, the clinical therapist hat.
Yes.
Because that's who we're dealing with, you are, Dr. B. So, Dr. B, what is fear?
It's a good question. When you talk about what is fear, fear is this. There are different acronyms for fear: forget everything and run, false evidence appearing real. There are acronyms for fear, Dr. Terry, but fear is the anticipation, or it's a strong emotion. It's a very unpleasant emotion that is caused by anticipation or an awareness of danger, whether it is physical danger, psychological, whether it is perceived or not, whether it's real or not. The thing about fear is that it's this perceived danger that one may be in, whether it's emotional, physical, psychological, or otherwise. It's more of a perceived or an anticipation that one may be in some type of danger.
Dr. B, thank you for identifying, because I've never identified fear as an emotion. We're just overcome with it. And I guess I should have known. I identify emotion with sad or happy or angry or something like that, but I never identified fear. And since now that we know it is an emotion, how do we handle our emotions so that we can, as we identify them, how do we handle our emotions?
And so that's a good point. Again, fear is an emotion. It's a very strong emotion, and it's one that can make a person make an irrational decision. It can be very paralyzing. So how do you contain your emotions, particularly if they are fearful, if you're struggling with fear? And so when you think about fear, there's an exercise that I like to do, and I like to share with our viewers that are watching the podcast. In terms of being able to control your emotions, one of the most powerful, simple things to do is to learn how to breathe properly, and to actually do something that I started with my clients. I call it breathing for life. So in terms of controlling your emotions, you'll be amazed, Dr. Ross, how powerful we can bring our emotions in check, and how quick we can bring our emotions in check by simply choosing to breathe in what we want to feel versus what we are feeling. For example, to overcome the emotion of fear, then what would be the opposite of fear? The opposite of fear would be peace. So in other words, it would be something that is positive. So if you're feeling fearful about something, you can literally stop and say, I breathe, and you pause. It's almost a whisper. And you can literally whisper and say, I breathe in joy. I breathe in self-control. I release fear. Something simple like that is a simple way to gain your emotions. We don't realize the power of taking our time to just choosing to control our emotions, or choosing to get our emotions in control based on just choosing to take just a moment. Again, if you find yourself getting angry, we're going to be talking about anger also in an upcoming show, but podcast. But again, talking about fear. So the opposite of fear can be faith. The opposite of fear is peace. The opposite of fear is calmness. And so it's just taking a moment to breathe it in and to be able to literally say, I breathe in peace, and breathe it in. Release fear. Something as simple as that, as an exercise daily, or when you find yourself becoming anxious or find yourself being worried, taking that moment to do that particular type of exercise is a way to control your emotions. Self-talk. Self-talk is another way to control emotions. Taking the time to speak to yourself, as we've talked about affirmations in our first broadcast. Taking the time to affirm yourself and speak positive affirmations daily out of your mouth. There's another way to control your emotions. When you find yourself, again, getting fearful, take time and say, I'm in control. I can handle this situation. I can do this. I can overcome this. Something as simple as that. Words are so powerful. As you know, I've talked to you about that before, and it's just an amazing ability that we have to use our mouth to bring our emotions back in check.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for ending with those affirmations. You talked about gaining control of our emotions, and I read a book about 10 or 12 years ago called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. I can't think of the author's name, but I keep it next to me. I should know their name. However, one of the strategies that they had is like if you're going into a meeting and you know that there are going to be some triggers in that meeting, take a bottle of water with you and take a sip of water before you respond. And as I talk about that strategy to people, I tell them by the time you take the breath that you need to breathe, to take that sip of water, and then everything that happens that needs to get that water down, maybe the conversation will have moved on, or you'll have a different thought process. So I'm glad to hear you say just taking that breath and breathe in faith, breathe in peace, breathe in joy, breathe in calm, and then breathe that fear out. One of the affirmations that my family and I use, my wife and my daughter, we say, I am safe.
I love it.
And instantly when I say that, it's like every cell in my body respond to it. I can feel like a little something happened with me when I say, especially if I'm like going into a situation where I feel like I'm in my mind, I'm creating this thing going on. I just remember to say, I'm safe.
Yes, yes.
And that kind of gets me through. And really, it gets it away from it. But I'm glad that you said, breathe out what it is you're feeling. So when I breathe in, I'm safe. Now I know to breathe out the fear.
Yes, you can just say, I release fear. I release anxiousness. And it's like when you breathe it in, you're breathing in like you're taking it in. And one of the things that happens when you breathe in, I breathe in confidence.
Yes.
Release fear. If you do it as a whisper, actually, Dr. T, you literally can feel the very power of the words. Because here's the thing, words are so powerful. Every word has words are spirit. Words are the most powerful creative force in the entire universe. And what happens is we think that we're just saying words, but words released out of our mouth that's why we know that words can build people up, words can tear down, words can change a person's mood, words can make you feel very good. Words are so powerful. So when you are releasing positive words out of your mouth, and you do it as a whisper, or whatever you're breathing in, I should say, when you're breathing it in, it is very powerful. But what it does, it releases chemicals into your body that brings your body, your mind, your emotions, and your spirit all into alignment. And it allows you to keep your cool. It allows you to, like you say, feel safe. It brings a calmness to you, and it's so powerful, and it's free. You don't have to go and buy words. They're already there.
Yes.
You just have to use them. There's a reservoir of words that we have. And so words are containers on the inside of our spirit part of us. And so when words are brought into us, it's like this calmness. It's a peace. And that's what, in terms of getting back to fear, we all have a healthy fear when it comes to crossing the street, if you will. No one is going to cross the middle of a busy street just skipping along with cars coming. There's a healthy fear. You're going to get across the street, right? And so we have a built-in ability to have, if you will, a healthy fear to not do certain things that would put us in danger. The problem is that when we have unhealthy fear based on what we're perceiving to be bad for us, or we're perceiving it to be something that is going to, make our situation worse, or make our life worse, or be too hard to deal with, in terms of moving forward with your life or your purpose or pursuing goals, that's where fear can be an issue, because it can be paralyzing to us in such a way that we don't move forward. And so we're sitting on all of the gifts, we're sitting on our talents, we're sitting on business ideas, or we may be sitting on some idea for an organization, or some brilliant gold mine idea. And fear can impede our ability to move forward if we don't gain that control over fear. Because truthfully, most often fear is something that is perceived. It's imagining the worst. When you really think about fear, you're really imagining the worst that can happen, rather than conditioning your mind to believe that the best.
Imagining the best.
So whatever we imagine, wherever we're thinking on, focused on, that is what produces the actions or the inability to act. So we act when we have confidence, when we believe that something good or our situation can, go forward, or we can achieve that goal. But if we think that we can't, or we are fearful that perhaps, we're going to get turned down for a business loan, well, many of us won't even start. We won't even attempt to go, because a lot of times we talk ourselves out of it. That's what fear can do. It causes us to imagine or perceive the worst to happen rather than the best, and that will impede our ability to act. And because if you don't act, it's never going to happen.
Yes. And so many of us we've been conditioned to think the worst.
Yes.
We've been conditioned because, well, if you think the worst, whatever happened to be better. And I fell into that mode for some years. And I started saying, no, I'm going to imagine the best, and I'm going to think the best, and I'm going to act the best. And you really got into my next question, if you want to elaborate it on it some more. How does fear hold us back?
So there are some ways in which fear can just really hold us back, because what it causes us to do is to really focus on the downside. Fear, again, causes us to believe that, well, I shouldn't do it, I shouldn't try, or it's going to be too hard. Or let's just take an example. Dr. Ross. Someone wants to go back to school. We're talking about
Yes.
an adult, been
Mhm.
out of school for years, but really, really, really have always wanted that degree, but maybe, started a family too, very young, maybe
Mhm.
had, children, and then decide, well, I'll wait till my children get grown or what have you, but now I want to go back. But again, thinking, oh, wait a minute, it's going to take 4 years. It's going to take 4 years. So I don't know if
Mhm.
I'm afraid to go back, or maybe I don't know the math. I mean,
Right.
maybe the work is going to be too hard. I'll take my sister, for example, because she still remembers this moment. And that is when you talk about being afraid to try because you think maybe it's going to be too hard or too long to take. My sister, I remember when she was 26 years old, she came to me and she said, Brenda, I want to go back to school. I got this, job. I'm making $6.33 an hour. This was years ago. And she said, I want to go back to school, but I don't know. It's gonna take so long. I said, well, what do you want to do? What are you aspiring? She said, I want to be a teacher. She said, but it's gonna take me 4 years to get my degree, and I don't know. I mean, it's gonna take a long time, and I don't know if I can do it. I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, how old are you gonna be in 4 years? She said, I'm gonna be 30. I said, well, let me ask you another question. Since you said you're afraid that it's gonna take too long, I said, well, how old are you going to be in 4 years if you don't go back to school?
Mhm.
She had an aha moment, Dr. Ross, because she said,
Yes.
wait a minute, I'm going to be the same age. So
Yes.
if I'm going to be the same age, I may as well be the same age with a degree. No
Yes.
matter how hard it is, no matter how long it takes. And that's the thing. Fear causes you to look at the downside.
Mhm.
That's how it'll hold you back and keep
Absolutely.
you from not even taking the first step. But again, reframing your mind to look at the best and think that, wait a minute, I need to make an effort. I need to make a step. Because if I make a step, I'm one step closer. Because if you don't move, you'll never get there. So that's a way in which fear can hold us back, is looking too far down the road. And sometimes that's what we do. We'll look way down the road and think, well, if I want to start a business, but I'm going to need this much capital, and I'm going to need that person, I'm going to need this, and oh my God, I got to get a building. Oh Lord, I'm going to have to get my license. I'm going to have to get. And so you begin to think so far down the road. And what happens is it can paralyze you from taking that first step. And so the best thing to do is to simply make your mind up that you deserve to pursue your dream, your goal, your purpose, whatever that you feel that you have been divinely given. You are the only person.
Mhm.
Nobody else is going to pursue it for you. So when you
Mhm.
talk about fear, one of the things to do is you got to face it by being able to say, I have made up my mind. I
Mhm.
will not be paralyzed by thinking the worst. I am
Mhm.
going to allow my mind to think the best can happen. Instead of thinking they won't give me a loan, well, what about thinking I will get the loan? Because what
Yes.
did we talk about last time, Dr. Ross? We get what we expect. We really
Yes.
do. We have to condition ourselves
Mhm.
to really believe that, and not allow fear to be that controlling force that stops us. Because one thing that none of us want to sing one day is a blues song. It's a blues song. I woulda, I coulda, I almost, I shoulda, but I didn't. Come on now. We
Yes.
don't want to have regrets. And somebody right now, perhaps in a barbershop, or so perhaps, maybe getting their hair done or something, and thinking, I would have gone back to school. I should have started that business. I would have, I could have, I almost, but I didn't, because I let fear stop me. And fear, it will never be a perfect time to do anything. It will never be a perfect time. And so if we're looking for a perfect time to pursue, then what we're really looking for is an excuse. And remember, if you're looking for an excuse, whoop, there it is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, most people, what they fear is they say. Now,
Ooh, come on, let's talk about that.
who is they? And are they imagined, or are they real? Who are
Yeah.
they? Who are they? Yes.
The world-renowned they. The
Yes.
world-renowned they.
And
Well, one of the things that you just brought up, even in bringing up that statement, the they, is I tell people I tell my clients the greatest thing that any of us can ever be freed from or delivered from. To be delivered from something means to be freed. Anything that you think that anything that's controlling you is something that you need to be freed from. And I tell people, Dr. Ross, the greatest thing that we can never be freed from, it's not drugs, it's not alcohol, it's not shopping, it's not gambling. No, the most powerful thing that we can be delivered from is people. Hello and good night. People.
yes.
The they.
Yes.
That they are the people. And so what
Yes.
that is, it's the fear of man, fear of people. It's a fear of being just accepted for who you are and what you bring to the table. And so it's so important to make a decision that the perceived they, which really is a stronghold of having too much concern about the opinions of others. And that's one of the greatest things to be freed of is the opinion of people. People will always have an opinion. It doesn't cost any money to have an opinion. You can throw your opinion in the hat and in the ring any day of the week, but it's just that. It's an opinion. And so if we wait, that's one of the things that puts us in fear also, Dr. T, is waiting for someone too many people to validate and to okay us, to tell us, give us some kind of licensure, if you will, to move forward. So sometimes we are afraid to trust our own judgment. Oh my goodness, wait a minute. Stay in therapist mode because I feel a preach coming. Listen. So we have to. And it is important. It's important to be able to trust your own judgment. And that's one of 12 rights. We have 12 human rights. Every human being has 12 rights. They're called the assertive rights. And we have the right to trust our own judgment. And sometimes you've got to do it afraid. Do it afraid. And it's okay to do things afraid. Sometimes we've got to make a decision to get out of an unhealthy relationship. And we may be afraid to, but we need to just do it afraid because the toxicity, if you will, of that relationship. Maybe that relationship is really bad for us. Maybe it's really unhealthy. And maybe we are afraid of the unknown because at least I know how this person is. I'm maybe afraid to be by myself or afraid that, I'm gonna be left alone. There's so many ways in which fear can impede us and impede our progress. And so hope that is helpful to understand. Trust your own judgment. And so sometimes we have to really just push past fear, calm our spirits down, talk to ourselves, breathe and say, I can do this. I can make this change. I can make this decision. This is in my best interest.
Yes. And thank you for bringing in people can throw their opinion anywhere and it's free, because they is just their first name. The last name is said. They say it. And I have a friend that's a principal in her office. She has who's they said. Who are they? But where are they? Because they are always saying something. So thank you for sharing that, because you mentioned fear of being alone, but some people won't leave because of the fear of being hungry, the fear of being safe, the fear of not having the things that they want. And I say that if that's what we think, then that's what we'll get. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for reminding me that we get what we focus on and we get what we think about. And the last time you talked about, if you want to change your feeling, you need to change your focus.
That's right.
And I really like that. And I remembered that. And that's so appropriate right here, because as you talked about, when you think about fear, if I change my my feelings to faith, then if I change my focus to faith, I change my feeling.
Absolutely.
And I've been in those spaces quite a bit lately. And I guess my last question I'd like to ask you is, how do we overcome fear? You talked about the breathing in and the breathing out. That's in the moment. But what is
Yeah.
that deep work that we do as we walk away from that? Because yes, we made it through that moment, but as we walk away and begin to reflect, how do we overcome fear?
One of the ways to overcome fear is I really love journaling. And I think that when you journal, you're able to reflect. And one of the things that can help you is if you are a person that will begin to journal or write, just kind of jot down about your day, really keep a track of your life. What happens is you are able then to look back. I love to put the date on it and the time, and I title it so that when I've had stressful moments, I've had hard times in life, it's amazing when you look back and you realize, oh, wow, that was so hard, but I made it through that.
Yes.
Wow. Let me look back at that day. Wait a minute. I was going through that situation. Wait a minute. The same ability to make it through that in the past, it's amazing when you think about how do you really overcome fear. The way you overcome fear is, first of all, we all have, this is important, doesn't matter what your religion is per se. However, it's important that we feed our spirit. You have to feed spirit, whether it's the Bible, if you're a believer, a Christian, or it is something inspirational, if you're not, or whatever, the Quran, whatever feeds your spirit that allows you to build up, if you will, the faith part of you, the ability to look for the good and see the good. So when you think about on an ongoing basis, whatever we feed the most is going to control our life the most. Whatever you feed the most will control your life the most. And so if fear is controlling our life, if we are fearful, if we're anxious, if we are dealing with anxiety on a regular basis, if we're dealing with worry on a regular basis, then we need to stop and take our own inventory and say, wait a minute, what have I been doing lately? What have I been focused on lately? Okay. And so it's important, Janet Jackson had a song years ago, what have you done for me lately? Well, we need to ask ourselves, what have I done for me lately? How am I feeding my faith? How am I building my confidence daily? How am I building the part of me that allows me to believe and look for good and expect not the worst, but expect the best? So in terms of a long-term basis, Dr. T, it is important to begin to really take inventory of how do we spend our day in the terms of, we got 24 hours in a day, so many hours of sleeping, so many of those hours of working, so many of those hours of fellowshipping and eating. So how much time are we really spending when we do have our downtime, keeping our spirit built up, keeping our mind renewed? And so as a person of faith, I know that the reason I have such a positive attitude and a positive outlook, and I don't allow fear to hinder me or to block me, is because I'm focused on the long term. I'm focused on the fact that I matter, I am needed. Somebody needs what is divinely placed in me. So my work that I do, I approach life in such a way that I don't have time to allow fear to impede my progress. You have to make up your mind. It's something powerful about a person who makes their mind up. Never underestimate the power of a made up mind. When you make your mind up, you can do things that you never thought you could do. When you make your mind up, no matter what the goal is, the dream is, no matter what your focus is, no matter what you're trying to achieve, when you make your mind up, fear won't have a chance. It won't have a chance when you really make your mind up. And so that's why you have to make your mind up that you are going to push past, because it's always something that is perceived. That's why one of the acronyms is fear is false evidence appearing real. And so it's always more so, imagine when it's fear that's not danger based. And so it's important to embrace that, knowing that we really do have the power to overcome it. We have the power to control fear and keep fear at bay in such a way. But you have to mentally decide that you will not allow yourself to be hindered with the inability to move. Fear can paralyze us. It can. And so that's why opening up your mouth and saying words that are opposite of fear breaks it. It breaks that stronghold off your thinking enough for you to take action.
Thank you so much, Dr. B. And thank you for sharing the power of a made-up mind. I've experienced it so many times that when I made up my mind, that was it. It's almost like everyone is waiting for you. And when you make up your mind and move forward, the people who you were waiting on to validate you, they'll come on board as well.
Absolutely.
And if they don't, you don't worry about it. You just keep moving. And thank you for sharing that. The biggest thing that mostly we fear is people. And sometimes it's the fear of losing that relationship if you level up. It's the fear that I'm going to be the one that they talk about if I level up. Well, would you rather stay down and be a part of the crowd, or level up and have the extraordinary life that you dream of? And I choose to level up and have that extraordinary life, Dr. B.
Absolutely. May I share this? There's something that God really gave me that I have simply used, and I've given it a term, and it's called twisted admiration. May I share with you quickly what twisted admiration is? Because you are talking about leveling up, and what happens many times when you level up and go to the next level, and you're trying to improve yourself, and you're really just trying to be the best you, right? What happens? Trying to be the best you, and we get into fear when we become concerned about what they say. They said, and what they would think, and what they would believe, and we know it doesn't even exist. That is nothing more than a mindset of fear and being afraid of people, instead of loving and embracing ourselves in such a way that we realize that we are so valuable to the planet that we're going to get ourselves in position so we can help the they say, okay? And so twisted admiration. What is twisted admiration? Twisted admiration simply means when someone actually admires you. You know what it means to be admired? When someone holds you in high esteem, they actually look up to you. They actually admire something about you. But what happens is twisted admiration is when somebody admires you, but because of their own insecurities, because of their own intimidation, because of their own, if you will, fears that they have about what they can do and their ability to be able to move forward, they find it necessary to criticize you for doing what you were born to do. They find it necessary. Instead of hating on you, instead of celebrating you, they find themselves, quote, hating on you or criticizing you. Listen, anytime you're being criticized for pursuing your purpose, or being criticized for making an effort to do something that's out of the box, listen, it's just twisted admiration, but we got to recognize, I call it knowing when hell is complimenting you. Oh my goodness, come on. We got to recognize that it's okay. It's okay. You can't allow that to impede you. When we think about famous people, we think about pioneers, we think about trailblazers and pioneers did not have time to stop and say and get validation and say, well, do you like my idea? Do you like my idea? Do you like my idea? Do you like it? Because if we wait for that, then we'll never move. All of us will move, will be, stagnant. Nobody would achieve what they were created to do or be in the earth. So twisted admiration. I say, listen, bless them and keep moving, but don't stop. And that's the thing that is so important, is not to allow people who may not understand our vision, may not understand who we are, may not understand what we are, trying to do or accomplish. It's okay. Everybody doesn't have to buy into our dream. Everyone doesn't have to buy into our vision. Everybody doesn't have to do it. We're the ones who have to keep moving and not let fear and fear of what people think about us or what people believe about us to stop us. Because if we do, we're giving people power. I don't want people
Yes.
power over my life. I don't want people to have power to stop me. And then one day I'm singing a sad blues song, woulda, coulda, shoulda, almost. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
but I did.
Thank you so much, Dr. B. Twisted admiration and a compliment from hell. I'll walk away with that. Because that's what it is. When people are hating and talking about you for doing you and being you, that's really a compliment.
It's a
They're looking because they're watching, they're looking. So
compliment.
thank you for sharing that. But
You're right.
before we go, Dr. B, tell us about that shirt.
The hopeologist.
Yes, tell us
The
about
hope.
that shirt.
Well, and so, I'm the ambassador of hope, but I told you I have some other nicknames. So the hopeologist, someone nicknamed me that years ago, and they said, Dr. B, you know what? I know you have a degree in psychology, but you have a gift in hopeology. And so
Yes.
that's where the hopeologist came from. And so I actually had a person to reach out to me. She was really much in distress. Hadn't talked to her in years. And I said, well, what would make you reach out to Dr. B? She said, Dr. B, because you are my hopeologist and I needed some hope today. That's why I reached out to you. I said, oh, you're going to make me cry. How much
Yes.
money do you want? You're going to make me cry. You're buying me for the dime. So
Yes.
that's the hopeologist. That's the thought behind it. It's about being here to put hope in the earth in every way that I can.
Thank you so much, Dr. B, for joining us. You always leave just golden nuggets and gems of all kind, diamonds, rubies, emeralds for us to walk away with. And I want to thank you, my audience, for joining on It's the Heart Work, People, Passion, and Purpose podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Terry Ross. And until next time, enjoy the journey because someone wishes they were in your shoes. Thank you.